Hey guys, welcome to the January 4th analysis. Today, as you may know, was a non-farms payroll Friday, and because it's a Friday, we're going to be covering the weekly charts like we typically do at the end of each week, and maybe see how the non-farms announcement affected some of these longer-term weekly charts. So we'll cover those, a lot of the trend lines that are in play, like the one you see right in front of you on the pound dollar. Also, a major trend line that's a little more interesting to me is the EURAUD, so I want to show you that one as well. A lot of great stuff to look at on the weekly charts. The market conditions really look like they're picking up already in just the first few days of January. So that's what you have to look forward to. Let's first cover our terms quickly, and then we can jump back into the charts. Alright guys, in the terms basically, as you may know, just say that we're not licensed or qualified to provide investment advice, and that the daily analysis is purely an educational, beneficial piece of information that we give to you, and it's not to be taken as investment advice. Okay, so if you need to read through those more thoroughly by yourself, make sure you just pause the video, read through, make sure you understand them, and I will go ahead and move into our charts. Alright, and I will not spend too much time covering these weekly charts. You know, most of us are not going to be actually executing trades based on the weekly close, but they do provide a lot of clarity as far as long-term movement in the market. So I think it's definitely good to take a step back and look at them on a regular basis. So the first thing again is this pound dollar, and you can see the sharp move up over the past few weeks. The reversal started around the middle of 2012 or the end of May, and has been pretty nicely moving. You know, this first initial move was very steep, and really captured a lot of pips in a short amount of time on the way up. Then we hit our resistance area around 163, which is a major level from here, and even previously we had a pullback, obviously, of a significant amount of pips, and then a strong continuation back to the upside. Now, what's interesting is that even though this is considered an uptrend, we did not make a higher high before reversing heavily back into the trend line. So there's two possibilities here. Number one is that we're continuing this sideways market, and this is in fact going to drop all the way back down toward 153 or lower. The other thing that's possible is that we just didn't quite make a higher high, but that does not mean the trend's over. It's just retesting, and is definitely going to continue making higher highs because this pound dollar is a legitimate uptrend. So those are the two different sides of the spectrum. My opinion is that price action is going to tell the story. If we see strong continuation early next week, I think longs into this level, at least as a minimum target, will be high probability trades. If we break this level, it's a little more tricky. I talked about this before, but one of the issues is because of the sideways market, we've created a lot of support and resistance areas. Like you can see all of the areas, for instance, here where it's at right now, a little bit lower with these tails here, a little bit lower on these tails, obviously the bottom here. So we've created a lot of levels of support and resistance clusters that are going to stop it if it does try to go down, or at least stall it, which make the short side a little more difficult. If it turns toward the long side, you have your obvious major level that you can target, and then of course if we break, then you have more, a lot more profit potential up towards 166, which corresponds with a historical high as well. So for me, a break to the upside is a higher probability trading experience, but I'm not necessarily going to expect that until I see some price action continuation and confirmation of that move. Okay, that's the pound dollar trend line on the weekly chart. I also want to show you the EURAUD weekly trend line. And you can see that the EURAUD is definitely running right into a weekly trend line, also trying to push it back up. Now, obviously, because of the long-term bearishness on the EURAUD, there's a lot of bearish momentum stacked behind this pair. Lower lows like this have been going on for a lot farther than how far back I'm showing you now. So it wouldn't be surprised if this thing crashed down toward a lower low. I'll be the first to admit that when this happened, right off this long-term trend line, I was thinking shorts toward 152, or excuse me, 115 and lower. 115 and lower off this trend line, and definitely was thinking short as it was crashing toward higher highs. So, I'm not going to be surprised again if all it did was fake us out, go a little higher, and come right back down again towards that 115 area. On the other side of things, you have to admit that this rally here of 5 and 6 weeks in a row, a slight stall, and then another great move to the upside is pretty inspiring with that euro strength. So we've had a pullback, it's moved up, another slight pullback, and so if it can break into a higher high at this point, this is a legitimate uptrend as well. Obviously, the pound dollar that I just showed you has a lot more track record than the euro odd. There's nothing to say that this euro odd cannot be a legitimate uptrend, making higher highs on a consistent basis. At this point, and to this point, all we've really seen is the long-term bearishness of the euro odd, and slight pullbacks like these have occurred intermittently. But there's no reason that 2013 can't be the year that we see a major reversal toward higher highs. Now, of course, I'm not going to assume that and be taking buys all the time on the euro odd just because 2013 could be the year. But if price action, does show us that prices are going higher, if fundamental analysis shows us that the euro is gaining strength and the odd is not able to keep up, then I'm not going to ignore that just because of the trend of history's past. I'm going to look at the new trend that's developing and look to take advantage of that. And so one of the first things that will give me a sign as to whether this is a legitimate uptrend is if this trend line is honored right now, and next week should be the telling sign of that. This base was built all the way back in July, and as the price was bouncing, the whole time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, of bullishness, I was just waiting for my chance to short, but that's sometimes what the market does. When everybody's already convinced that it's really a downtrend, and finally people are starting to come around and short it like they should, then it starts going longer term. So that could very well be the situation with EUROAUD, and I'm not counting out any bullishness or continuation possible here. We're off a great trend line, and I certainly would not be surprised if we got some continuation. There's a reason those trend lines have a lot of power. Now, along with the trend line, there also is a zone here of support. You can see that if you draw it, it's right at the top of this channel where price has been before. A little support area here as well. So it's not just the trend line. There is some other levels, and then we could actually draw a fib level just from the bottom here to this top, and see that we're not far off from our 38.2. I didn't actually have the 27 level in there, so or the 23.6, excuse me, the 23.6, but you can see that it's slightly past that. So we're in the middle between fibs there, which could also act as some support. So perhaps, if price comes through a little bit further and hits that 38.2, it would continue from that point rather than just stalling out this trend line. So in my opinion, a lot of possibilities for the EUROAUD to move higher. Obviously, there's possibilities for it to crash through and go lower as well, because again, there is a great bearish trend behind it. And whenever you have that much a long-term momentum, you can't count out the idea that prices could crash and continue to crash at any point in time. So a lot of different things going on with the EUROAUD. I think that there's potential either way. I showed you fib levels, I showed you trend lines, I showed you other support and resistance. All of them are coming in at slightly different prices, but all that means is that there's a lot of potential for a bounce, but there's also a lot of potential for a break. And that's how we trade. We look for bounces to take long, we look for breaks to take short in this situation, and it could be vice versa if the trend was backwards. And we look for price action confirmation of both those bounces and those breaks and look to profit off them. And that's really what trading is about, using these levels in the market, using the signs, using the sentiment, using the trend lines, and taking advantage when price action lines up and confirms those. Not getting too greedy, but understanding that continuation can happen when you have things that are added up together. The market is not random. When you have trend lines and Fibonacci levels and historical zones all adding up in the same area, there's a reason that price often does react to those levels. So that's exactly what we're looking to do. And I'll be interested to see if the EUROAUD does come a little lower, test one of those fib levels, or if we get an immediate rejection of price to the upside right now. Again, I think that anything is possible right now with the EUROAUD, and really, I mean, that's obviously a broad statement. Anything is possible with any pair at any time. But in terms of how well the market has been moving already in just the first few days of January, it seems like there could be some great trends, some exploding trends. Just look at the yen right now. And if that continues throughout the year, obviously we're going to want to get involved in those early and often and make money off of those moves. So sorry for that. I was all over the place with that EUROAUD, but I just wanted to point out all the different things to be looking out for and make sure that we're watching and ready for those. Speaking of reversals and moving to the upside, you can see the euro pound is pretty similar actually to the EURAUD. There's a downtrend that has been pretty consistent, and now it's building an uptrend. Now the euro pound, the downtrend is certainly not as extreme or as long term as the EURAUD, but nonetheless you can see the similarities. So as far as the euro pound, I think it's moving to the upside, moving nicely and looking to continue this slope. You can see that the slope has been, pretty mild slope so far. Not a steep move like the yen or anything, but obviously, if you're expecting the slope to continue, then targets all the way up to here would not be undoubtful, as long as it can break some of the major levels on the way, of course. But a great bounce off the trend line, moving to the upside, and looking like a lot of bullish potential on the euro pound. Next chart we have up here is the AUD dollar, and you can see again that we had the break, and now it's retesting this long-term weekly trend line. Looks to me like a great short possibility, but again, we'll have to wait and see if there's some price action continuation of this move toward the downside. If you do take a short, be mindful of these levels. Again, a lot of support and resistance clusters building during the sideways market. You can see that here is also a cluster right where it bounced the first time. So definitely some levels to be concerned with, but a nice test of this trend line, and we will certainly see if we can continue the downward move that really started at this peak. We got our first move to the downside. It made a slightly higher high, but since then has made lower lows and lower highs. And this original move started basically April of 2011 is when we first got this reversal on the AUD dollar. So AUD dollar definitely has some short potential. Just waiting for price action to give us some confirmation there. Alright guys, next we have the US yen, and obviously, as I was just mentioning, it looks like a straight rocket shot upward. Now we are sitting at a pretty hefty level of resistance, so a move to the downside would not be completely unexpected here, though obviously with an upward move like this, you have to be very careful when even thinking about the word short when this is happening. So obviously you want to wait for some confirmation, but again, there is quite a bit of stacked resistance here, so it'll be interesting to see how the US yen reacts to that level. Alright guys, and that's it for the weekly charts today. I hope that the analysis was beneficial to you. I appreciate any comments and thoughts on the analysis. I know that the weekly charts are not the most exciting, again, because there's not really a lot of actual trade setups and opportunities to execute based on the charts themselves, but I think it's great to take a look back and make sure that our perspective is right as far as these longer term moves. Okay guys, so thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.